Hey everybody, welcome to You Have to Watch This podcast. I'm Alan.
No, I'm Ryan.
And today we're joined by a very special guest. How would you like to be introduced? Dr.
My Lord and Master.
My Lord and Master, Dr. Kevin Alexander Boon.
That's a great introduction. I like that.
Kevin is the director of a film that I worked on last spring called A Host of Sparrows that is premiering in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania on July 7th.
7 p.m.
At the Capitol Theater. So he's here to promote that, but he's also here to talk about a movie I have never seen. If you're new to the show, the premise of our show is Ryan and I make each other watch movies that the other hasn't seen. And for this week, we reached out to Kevin and asked him what movie he would like to talk about that we had never seen. And he brought up John Carpenter's The Thing, which I had never seen, but Ryan had.
Yeah.
Oh, you'd seen?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. So
Should have gone with Weekend at Bernie's.
I love Weekend at Bernie's.
Oh, do you? There you go. All right.
why The Thing?
Why did I suggest The Thing?
Why did you suggest The Thing?
It's a great film, and if you haven't heard it, can I cuss on this thing?
Yeah.
It's a great fucking film. and if you haven't seen it, your education's not complete. So it's an important movie to see. It's one of John Carpenter's best. It's not my favorite John Carpenter. It's probably number 2. I've seen it 30, 40 times and can still watch it. I just watched it before you guys came over again, and I'm still going like, damn, this is a good movie. You know. So there's that, and I've published on The Thing. You may know that I had one of my articles on The Thing called "In Defense of John Carpenter's The Thing" was included with this company Arrow that makes in the UK and Britain makes DVDs. They included my article in that and stuff. So I'm really into The Thing. So
Okay. You had seen it before. When was the first time you saw it, Ryan?
Well, I saw it when I was like 10, and it scared the crap out of me, to be honest. And it stuck with me. I've only seen it about 5 times, though, so I haven't seen it as much. But it's one of those films that I definitely put down, is that if I know it's going to be on and I have time to actually sit down and watch it, I make the time, because I love sci-fi, and I love sci-fi horror. And it fits my niche perfectly. I put it right up there with the when it comes to the Alien movies. So like for me, it fits right in there. And I mean, I've even enjoyed the prequel that came out recently. So
it was okay.
It was okay. I mean, it wasn't as good as that one, but it's still, for me, being a bit it fit in there for me just a little bit.
Yeah, the reason I react that way is not because they didn't make a competent film with the what they called the prequel. As far as I was concerned, it wasn't really a prequel. They just took a couple images and said, this is where we are.
Yeah.
Because it was the Norwegians, right? It was the Norwegian base that was the one that was first taken over. If you're doing a prequel, you have to do the Norwegian base. Otherwise, you're just doing all the people packing up to go to Antarctica. So that's where the story happened. They didn't do that. And there were little things that bothered me, like the lead actress, who did a fine job. Got no objection to her. But she was like, she looked like she was like 23, and she's the expert in the world. You know, and that still bothers me. Americans do that. A British film doesn't do that. European film doesn't do that.
Yeah.
But American film does that all the time. So they say, look, we found this thing under the ice. We found a spaceship. We found these aliens. It's first contact. We've proven there's life on that. Oh my God, we got to have somebody to help us out here. Let's go find a 23-year-old from Yale. And you're like, no, probably the person you would bring in would be 64 and had been working in this for their entire life. Yeah. So that was just kind of like, no, we have to have a cute girl in the front. So you can see Hollywood at play in that.
Yeah, I got you.
You don't see Hollywood in play in Carpenter's The Thing. So that bothered me. But more to the point is there in the Carpenter's The Thing, there's this beautiful existential understory going on the whole time, and depth, and then the remake, they just leave that behind. It's not unlike the Aliens. Like if you like Aliens, right? In the first Alien, right, the message in the whole movie is listen to the girl.
Yeah, exactly.
Listen to Ripley. Yeah. And they don't listen to Ripley, and they all die. Yeah. Second one comes along, Aliens, the second one, and the message is exactly the same, so the director knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
That was Cameron, I think, right?
Yeah, it was Cameron,
Scott did the first one. And he goes, listen to the girl. They don't listen to Ripley. They all die. Third one comes along. This is Fincher. No objection. Fincher obviously has proven he can make a movie. But in this one, this was like his first movie coming out of music videos. So in that one, he comes in and the message is like they won't listen to the girl, but then they do listen to the girl, and because they listen to the girl, they all die, which undermines to me the whole heart of the whole thing. It disrupts the sort of thematic underscoring of the entire movie, and I think that happens with the sequel of The Thing. Is not Carpenter's sequel of the Howard Hawks thing, but the most recent one, is they really missed the point, which is about identity, and trust and being a person and what does it take to be a person and that sort of thing. So that's all in John Carpenter's The Thing. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I watched it for the first time last night, and I really did like the tension of all these men trapped in Antarctica not knowing who to trust. And where the tension really came in for me was the blood tests. Because you never know what's going to happen there. And it just does a really good job of keeping you in the dark.
Yeah, let me point out some if I can just talk.
No, that's fine.
You've had classes with me. I can talk forever.
Yes.
Let me show you some of the brilliance and try to make my argument for the brilliance of Carpenter's The Thing. So you includes the blood test, right? This sort of thing is that if you watch this movie very carefully, right, when they get to those blood tests, these people like Knowles and Childs and all these, they don't know that they're not the Thing. And there's a line earlier that says, well, if it was a perfect duplication and I was the Thing, how would you know? And you wouldn't.
Yeah.
And so what we see from a lot of that stuff is that the person is taken over. They don't even know they were taken. How would you know? If we had replaced you completely with a clone and installed all your memories 5 minutes ago, he and I got together and did that. How would you know? And there's only one person who was able to say no. He says it actually. He says, "Now I'm going to show you what I already know." He's the only person that's so confident in himself. And that's McCready, the only person who's so confident in himself that he knows who he is. So that's beautiful. And then if you track it, now I don't. You've only seen it once, right?
Yes.
You've seen it a few times. You track the people that are taken over. You can track them. You can figure out who took over who, when they were taken over, and all that. And so the first person taken over was. Let's see how well you watched.
Oh, what was his name?
See. Okay.
I only saw it the one time.
Switch the podcast, guys. See, they say they watched it, but did they? Palmer. The pothead was the first one taken over. Right, and then Norris was the second one taken over. Palmer took over Norris, but that's never on screen.
Okay.
But by the time we get to that thing where McCready's been cut loose, Knowles cuts McCready loose by the cabin because he finds the ripped underwear, and then McCready comes back, angry. Why did you lock me out? That sort of thing. Two people have been taken over at that point, and that's Palmer and Norris. And such interesting things happen with Palmer and Norris if you watch them closely, realizing, oh, they're the Thing. One of the moments is when Gary, the commander of the whole thing, right? He taps his gun out and stuff, and he says, "I give you my word, I did not. I don't know about copper, but I did not touch that blood." And he lays the gun down, and he says, "But I guess you'd all be more comfortable with somebody else being in charge." And he looks to Norris, who, if you've watched closely, is a Thing, and he says, "I can't see anybody objecting to you, Norris." And what's fascinating is Norris's response to that. And Bill Lancaster deserves credit too. He wrote the screenplay, so but Norris's response is fascinating. And I never hear anybody talking about it. But Norris says, "Oh, hey, no, guys, I'm not up to it." But the reality is, if he had taken charge, it's over, right?
Yeah.
He would be the Thing. He could, okay, you go over here, Art. I'm going to meet you in that room, and he could just start taking people over left and right. But that lets you know how thoroughly the people were taken over. You're taken over so thoroughly that you would not make a decision that you wouldn't make as that former person, even though you are an alien creature trying to survive. And it's all brilliant. So you get that blood test. It's really fast. Even Childs, who's very macho and very tough, is not sure it's him. He's just saying, well, when I find out it's not me, you get that sense, I'm still going to be strong and let you burn me or something. But McCready, he has no question who he is. He has that Nietzschean Superman sort of thing going on. He says, "I know who I am. I know what I do," and he's true to character from beginning to end. Yeah. It's fascinating.
It kind of felt to me that the film tries to make you think that McCready is the Thing, and I was really expecting it to go that way, but I didn't. But at the same time, I didn't know. Like, I felt like that was too on the nose, so I didn't think that was.
They were too smart. Lancaster and Carpenter were too smart to do that, but they'd set you up for it. Yeah. And when you find the ripped underwear, and they cuts him loose, you start thinking, maybe he was taken over. If you've seen it the first time, or whatever. But all that's planned. They plan all that stuff to throw you off, so you think, oh, it might be this person, it might be this person. We don't really know, and they do it beautifully.
Yeah. Looking at IMDb for John Carpenter, I realized this is only the second movie of his I've seen.
What was the other one?
The other one? No, Village of the Damned.
Oh, yeah.
Because I went on a Christopher Reeve kick right around the time he passed away. It was on like Stars at the time. So back in high school, I watched that once, and it went completely over my head. But I have a lot of holes when it comes to John Carpenter that we're probably gonna have to fill in on the
Oh
podcast.
yeah, my goodness.
So
there's tons. I mean, because that's I would put Village of the Damned. Of course, I don't know if you know the original ones. You know, the original there was Children of the Damned and Village of the Damned, which I loved growing up. When I first time I saw them when I was young, I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. How did they make this? You know, you got Ed Wood making Plan 9 from Outer Space, and people are making stuff like this.
Yeah.
They were fantastic. I did not like the remake. You know,
Yeah.
I like John Carpenter a lot, but I did not much care for that remake. It's at the bottom of my list of John Carpenter films. Top of my list is probably In the Mouth of Madness, which is a fantastic film. The reason I'd ask is we did it for the film club or whatever. We screened that with Adam Eisentraut.
I don't think I made it to that one
Yeah,
for some reason.
that was my choice of movie. You know, was In the Mouth of Madness, and it's very H.P. Lovecraftian and stuff. So you know that one's fantastic. But you know the thing is, like I say, right up there. You know, button up against that one.
Now, would you say this is one of your favorite films of all time, or just one of your favorite John Carpenter?
Depends on how many films we put in that category. I have a lot of favorite films. It gets really difficult because I've seen a lot of films, you know. I teach film, so from silent Edison films of giving baby a bath, all the way up to contemporary films. I've seen an awful lot of films, and a lot of brilliant films. So it's often easier if you're in categories. So if we're in the category of the thing, this kind of sci-fi horror-ish type of category. There are movies I like better. Like I like the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the '78, I think it was, version with Donald Sutherland.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite. I can watch that anytime, any place. I can do that with The Thing and In the Mouth of Madness too, but that one I just love the whole underlying story there of knowing who's who, and of course The Thing does that too. Who's who, But I enjoyed They Live. That's another Carpenter film. It's very popular. It was campier, than this one, but he knows what he's doing.
Anything?
At what point did The Thing stick out for you? Like, was it the first time you saw it? Okay.
And here's the thing about it's true about great literature. It's true about great music. It's true about anything. And in film, it's also true, and that is that you see something and you like it, right? So you see it that first time when you're over 10 or whatever, and it scares the crap out of you. I had that experience not with this movie, but when I was young, I saw Romero's. Night of the Living Dead, excuse me.
Yeah.
And I saw that. Scared the crap out of me. But then you go back to the movie and you watch it again and you find more. And then you go back and you find more. So The Thing, you go back, you find more, you find more, you find more. It keeps rewarding you. And even this time, when I was watching it again right before you guys came, just to see it one more time, I was seeing stuff that I hadn't seen before. And when you see it, it's not like, oh, that's cutesy or that's flashy or that's whatever. It's like it ties into that whole narrative, that whole understanding of that work that you've had for all these, all these years. It fits right in there. So it's like he doesn't mess up. Like he's not. Let's see if I can make this make sense. But it's like you see somebody and you notice the logo on their shirt for the first time. And it's not an arbitrary decision. It fits in. Somebody was talking one time about the costumes in one of the Star Trek movies, one of the early Star Trek movies.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how the production designer and the costume designer worked together, and they made the buttons. Each were of the. You guys might know Star Wars. Star Trek. Did I say Star Wars? Star Trek is what you would know better than me, but the villains, the evil alien.
Klingons?
Thank you very much. That if you actually got close up on the buttons of each one of the Klingons' outfits, it had Klingon logo on it. That kind of detail. Now they say you can't see it on screen, but they knew it was there. But if you're an audience and you could get a shot of it, and you say, oh, and you watch that movie and you love it, and you get close and you go, oh my God, that's the Klingon logo. It all fits with the whole story. It's not an arbitrary decision. And so they keep what we call in literature unpacking. You can keep unpacking the work and finding more and more to like about it, more and more to like about it.
Yeah.
And you don't dislike it just even though you know the story. Some murder mysteries, and there's been movies like that are just great, DOAs like that, right? They're wonderful, and you go, oh, that's fantastic, But then once you know the story, say, okay, I know how it's going to turn out. I know the butler did it. I know whatever. So you it's not as interesting the second, third, fourth, fifth time around. It's hard to watch 40, 50 times. So for a movie to have that kind of staying power, it really has to have more than just, oh, I've got to get this package over to the other side of town in 15 minutes or else the bomb goes off and destroys New York City. There has to be more than that. There has to be something that hits us as human beings. Star Wars is like that. If people talk about Star Wars and they say, when they came out, and I was around, I'm old enough to have been around when those movies came out. And when it came out, they're talking about the jump to light speed and the Millennium Falcon and the sword fights with the laser swords. That's what they're fighting about. That's what they're talking about when they leave the theater. But what makes it give its staying power is it's a Bildungsroman about a young man coming of age. Something that every young man does. How do I break from home? I want to get out of my house. I want to get away from home. I want to be my own independence and stuff. But I don't want to really leave home because then who makes my food? Who pays the electric bill? And that's where Luke Skywalker was. He was like that. I want to leave. I want to do whatever. But as soon as he says, "Oh, come with me and save the galaxy," he's like, "Well, I can't. I got homework."
Yeah.
So it's that part that strikes a chord with everybody and makes them keep loving it, keep loving it, keep loving it. And then the surface level, all works as well. So that's true with these movies. Usually the movies that I really love and watch over and over again. They have that. They have something underneath the surface that ties it to humanity, our own humanity, so we can appreciate it. The Thing certainly does that. How do you know who these people really are? If you want to put it into some kind of popular context, just imagine the people when they find out their neighbor was a serial killer. What are they always saying? "Oh, seems like such a nice guy. I never saw it in him." And there's, that thing echoes that. You don't know who that person really is. And then the Thing goes even farther to say, you don't even really know who you are when you come down and think about it, unless you're as strong as Mac McCready, excuse me.
Two actors that stood out to me that I haven't really seen like this early on in their careers were Keith David. He's the one at the end with Kurt Russell.
Oh,
Charles,
yeah.
I haven't seen him in anything where he's this young. I'm used to him playing like the older authoritative figure, yelling at pretty much the police chief yelling at the cops for doing the wrong thing. That's what I know him mostly as now. And then Wilford Brimley. He's not young in this, but this is pre-Cocoon.
Yeah.
And it seems like he aged a lot between this and Cocoon, and that's only a few years.
But you'd be surprised once you get there. Surprises me every day.
But it took me a minute because it didn't click that it was him right away. But then once I realized it was him, all I could think was diabetes. So.
I love the cast. I think he's done a great job with the cast. And he's got a nice mixture between people you recognize and people you don't recognize. And so it was a good job casting him. Of course, I've seen it so many times you can't imagine anybody else in the roles. You get locked in. It's like, how can anybody but Harrison Ford play Han Solo? How can that possible? It usually is, but it's hard to imagine it when you're locked in. And all these characters, I just know them so well. I'm locked into them.
One visual that I really liked in this, one transition was they used the Thing, when the first reveal of the corpse, the Thing corpse that they bring back from the camp, they used the smoke to reveal the body, and I really liked that transition because it's heavy on the smoke, and then the smoke dissipates, and then you see the twisted up corpse for the first time, and that's something that I haven't really seen before in film.
Letting smoke clear?
Well, for a reveal of something like that, I've had, but just for like that visual,
it's a cool technique. They were trying to. You can watch the whole movie and just watch what they do with smoke and breath. Yeah. But they were trying to create this contrast with the cold. So they tried to make sure everything kind of, if it was a hot thing and it was in the cold, it would let the vapor or whatever. Like you'd see people's breath, you'd see the heat rising, you'd see stuff like that.
And that was one of my favorite aspects of actually the film, of how they used the environment. That you just didn't have the play with, who are you, who am I, and that undertone, but they also used the environment to also make it a bit more, to put more anxiety into it.
Yeah.
Because you've got that, you're isolated, there's really no help coming, and it kind of throws the situation at your face just a little bit harder, as opposed to it taking place in like a science lab in the middle of a city.
Right.
Like they're out in the middle of nowhere, and they played with the elements very well to it. Because there were times where they literally could not go outside, so they were just stuck, and they had to deal with it.
That's to John W. Campbell's credit. He's the guy that wrote the short story Who Goes There.
Yeah.
And he, I've read a bunch of Campbell's stuff. He was one of the pulp sci-fi writers in the 50s and whatever. And I've read his stories, but this one stands out. And it stands out from a lot of the work of that period because he placed it in the Antarctica.
Yeah.
And I've given a lot of thought to this movie, and you can't put it anyplace else. If there's any life anywhere that can travel, you can't put it there. But you put it in the Antarctica in the middle of nowhere, the thing couldn't make it anywhere. You know, I mean, it would freeze, and then how long before another 100,000 years before anybody finds it?
Yeah.
But if you had a river, or you had an ocean, or you'd just become a fish and it'd take over the entire ocean, because right, nobody to fight it there before you ever knew it was there, and then take over the fishermen and the fishing industry and work its way out. Any place you go, you can't do it in the city. You know, you can't. It has to be someplace secluded and isolated. But they do a beautiful job. But when you talk about the environment, I mean, the shots are gorgeous. The cinematography is absolutely gorgeous in this thing. If you see a good copy of it, which I always recommend you see the best copy possible. But when I see the opening, I'm taken to where it's probably because I'm a literary person. You know, my degrees are in English and stuff. But I think like the entrance to Fargo, where it starts with just white, and then the story emerges onto the screen. It breaks through the white on the screen, the way words break onto a page and they're written. And this one does that. You have this white, snowy landscape shot, very wide shot, series of wide shots actually in the beginning, and all of a sudden the story bursts out of that. All this where there's this helicopter, and it creates this sense of what's going on, right? And then these Norwegians get in there, and they come into this camp, and people are looking at them on the camp going, well, who's this? I mean, the original story was called Who Goes There? So it's like, well, who is this? What does he want? What's happening? Why is he trying to shoot the dog? So you get that, like, right from the beginning, you get this story emerging from the landscape of the screen. And there's also I was thinking about this when I was watching it this time again, is the contrast that creates this beautiful contrast. Like black words on a white sheet of paper, you have this white backdrop to the black story, the dark story, which is the people and the characters and the objects that are put in there. And if you look at it, by the time we get to the end, it's dark.
Yeah.
Starts bright light, and then all of a sudden the story starts emerging, and it gets so full that by the time you're at the end, it's dark, and all you see is those characters. Now you've lost the white backdrop. That's great. I mean, there's no big wide snow shots in the climax. When they're burning the camp and everything. Spoilers, burning the camp. There's no there are no big wide, the snow part's gone, the white part's gone. It's like so, and there's also the implication there. Here you get this pristine world, and here comes this thing to screw it all up, And you see that more than once. Like I said, in Fargo, the Coen brothers did the same thing. Yeah. It's white, snowy, nothing, and then boom, here comes that car.
Speaking of Fargo, the one thing that sticks out in my head, because I've only seen that movie once. But it's
get you to watch more movies.
Yeah, well, I mean, believe me, I watch it. Yeah, it's
we
have the podcast. I do watch a lot of movies. It's just that I tend to some movies I watch maybe once or twice and then move on to something else. But the one scene in Fargo, we talk about the use of just the white landscape, and especially for this scene in Fargo with the color, the red. When they come across and he's using the wood chipper, and the foot's sticking out of the wood chipper, but just they pull the camera's pulled back, and you just see. It's red on the snow, and just that one scene is just stuck with me for whatever reason from that movie, and I think it's because exactly what you're talking about. It's just the white and the red, and it just
on
purpose.
Sticks. They're doing that on purpose, and it echoes to the beginning of the film. Where not the scene where they go to the bar, which I believe in the screenplay was not the first scene in the screenplay, but it was the first scene in the film. But they have the shooting, right, where they shoot the cops and stuff, and you get blood on snow. You just kind of we've messed things up.
We talked a little bit about them being isolated in Antarctica because of their surroundings, and I think that's a good transition to go into Host of Sparrows.
What a fabulous film! Not since The Thing as a movie of this length made it into a theater.
A little bit of history about Kevin and I. He was my college English professor my freshman year, and I was in a class called the Monalto Film Project, where we had 4 semesters to make a feature film. And you've done...
And did.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
We've done 3 feature films together.
Yes, we have.
Host of Sparrows being the latest one. Tell the listener a little bit about Host of Sparrows.
Well, it's a thriller, unless you're not thrilled. But it's a thriller about an ex-con who gets out of prison after serving 13 years. He has stashed away the money from his last job, and he plans on going to Florida and basically retiring from crime. But the sort of mastermind, the puppet master of the criminal organization, wants the money back. So he's trying to figure out how to get to the guy that's out of prison, just got out of prison, whose name's Tom. And he knows that Tom has this daughter. And Tom knows he has the daughter too, but it was from I hate to say illicit, but from this love affair. His true love happened to have been married at the time, which I understand happens. Doesn't happen to me, but I understand it happens. And and she had a child, right? But the mother was dead by this point, had been killed. So the child doesn't know that he's her father, so they've never really met. And the mastermind, this character named Finn, negotiates to get the daughter to this secluded bed and breakfast in the Antarctica. No, I'm just kidding. Out in the middle of the woods, and in order to coax the guy there so he can hopefully get the money out of him. You know. And I mean that's basically it. And then you find out that you end up at this bed and breakfast at the with these characters, these 7 characters, and they are all seemingly unrelated. But by the time we get to the end, you find out every single one of them is related to this murder that took place like 12 years earlier or something.
Yeah, there's a little bit of the same thing in the thing where you can't really know who to trust in the bed and breakfast.
Yeah, I don't do it quite as well as Carpenter, but yeah, it's there.
Yeah, it's there.
It's there.
It's close to Carpenter.
Close to Carpenter. It's going on the fucking poster. A Host of Sparrows. Close to Carpenter.
Do you have any questions about Sparrows?
When Alan was working on it, he was telling me about bits and pieces of different things that were going on, and the one aspect is I haven't. When it comes to the storyline, that's probably the best explanation I've heard so far.
But, well, he wrote the screenplay.
Well,
so.
I know. I'm just saying. It's just from everything that you told me about it. That's I have a better understanding of it now. But when he was working on it, he showed me some pictures from on set, and one thing that has always interested me back when I was a kid, Discovery Channel used to have a show called Movie Magic, and it would show about how they would, like blue screen and like all that different stuff. One thing that really interested me in one of the photos was you guys set up for a rain scene, and you guys had to like physically build that rig and get that set up. When it comes to writing out the screenplay, and when it comes to picking like the weather environment for a scene, how do you go about matching what the environment or the weather should be like for what's going on for the characters?
Why pick rain?
Well,
I mean, there's a number of reasons. I mean, I wrote the script without knowing how to do rain. So, I mean, I was like, how are we going to do this? I don't know. And we went through multiple revisions and before we finally locked the script that we shot. But I had rain in there because we had to have these people trapped. Secluded.
Yeah. Because it's not set in Antarctica.
Well,
right. In Antarctica, we're covered.
Yeah.
So that's the idea. They can't get out. And the bed and breakfast is out in the middle of... I mean, one thing I hate in movies is I hate a lot of things sometimes, but I hate when you have a situation where the character's like someplace like in a secluded bed and breakfast, and then somebody gets killed, right? And then they're like, oh gosh, let me go to my room and think about this. I'm saying, or get in the car and drive home. Or even if the car's ruined, if there are people dying, I mean, I know I wouldn't be there anymore. I'd go hit the woods and get the hell out of there, and I wouldn't tell anybody I was leaving. So you say, well, how do I keep them there? People that were not inclined to be there. How would I keep them there? And so rain does it, right? You get a big enough rainstorm, and it, in this case, washes out a road. So they can't get out. I mean, they could swim out. One character says, well, we could swim out, but that's about the only way out. And by that time, they're really deep into the story, so they can't, they've got other things going on. But, so that was it. But it was very interesting to do rain. I wasn't sure how I was going to do it. I got this wonderful guy, John Strawler, who has this great red truck. He's been in 2 of my movies now. And a great guy, and he's very handy. I'm not a very handy guy, so I can't, build things and go, oh, let me get you a bookshelf. There you go. You want a couch? There. But he can. And so I researched how rain was done in movies. It's extraordinarily expensive to do it, like Road to Perdition. I don't know if you know that film, but the rain sequence in that, with Tom Hanks approaching the bad guys and taking them out. Beautiful rain, beautiful rain. So started watching a lot of rain. You watch movies that have rain and looking at how rain effects are produced and made, and then you say, I can't afford that. So how can I fake this? And the reality is you could change the script. We had to change the script sometimes because I had these shots, and this happens to everybody who loves movies, who writes. You know, you have these beautiful shots in your mind.
Yeah.
I had this one beautiful, just that's still in there. I mean, it's still like, I wish I could have seen this. But where this car enters, a big wide shot, huge wide shot, car enters from the left front, pouring down rain everywhere, rain hitting everything. Pours and drives up, and there's on the right, you know, this flooded out road. So it drives in profile up, stops. Two people get out and walk forward. So we got car, people, flooded road. Before we go to a close up, love the shot. That couldn't do it. You know, I'd say, well, we can't get rain over that big a period. So you have to come in close for rain. You know, I mean, even the windows. You know, we just don't have enough stuff and enough ability, enough people. So. Like if we're shooting a scene, we just maybe get rain on the window behind the shot. That's it. You know, we can't have a wide shot because we take in 15 windows. We can't. I think we could do 2 windows at a time. That was the most we could do. So we built a rig. John Strahler built this rig for us, and we worked on that. And we tested it. Didn't work. Tried to redid it until we got it to work. And we ended up doing it with a couple of ladders. And he had built this like pole, that would stretch across the ladders. We ended up having to screw them into the ladders to make sure they stayed stable. And lawn sprinkler heads down the thing so they could be adjusted. And that was the primary source of rain. And then I got a couple just little sticks you use in the garden, as long as it had a spray head on it. And that's all we had, 2 sticks and that big device. But it worked great. And it was crazy sometimes. I mean, Alan can tell you, he was there.
Oh, yeah.
We had to hire a water truck because we're out in the middle of nowhere. So if they're not in the bed and breakfast, they're out in the wilderness. How do you get rain in the wilderness? So we had to bring a water truck out, hire a water truck, and he would pump the water through. And we had like people running after people holding this device. And
I remember at one point we're doing a scene where a character is running in the rain along the lake, and we had the rain bar. It was me next to the lake, and then one of the grips, Darren, on the other side. And we're just holding the bar above our heads, running backwards. I hit a tree like at least 5 times. My arms are all beat up from the branches, but it was worth it.
That's a commitment to art.
Yeah.
And it was hilarious because he's running, he's got the poles, and they're running, the grips are running, and I'm running, I'm the director, I'm running backwards, and the DP of course is running backwards with the camera. So you got all these massive people running back, spraying rain on this on Elizabeth Wilde, who plays Margot in the film, does a fabulous job. But spraying rain on her as she runs because we couldn't put rain down the whole length of the shot. There's no way to have that much rain without money. So
actual rain.
Or actual rain. But you can't use actual rain. You know that. On set.
Well, on set we didn't have a day of rain. Like maybe one
little sprinkles,
but nothing that the screenplay called for. So any rain that you see in the movie is artificial.
It's practical effects. And we had, and when you see it. I mean, there's a couple places where you can see light and you go, okay, it's a lot of light. But we have flooded road scenes and they're standing and pouring down rain, and I think it came out pretty well. But those days were like sunny days at the beach. Not a cloud in the sky. Everybody got a sunburn, But when you see it on the screen, it looks like rain.
Yeah. Having seen the film, I'm very impressed with how the rain turned out. Because on set, you're like, this isn't gonna work. But having seen the film, it works.
It works. And I
9 times out of 10.
I looked at the mistakes people made, and I got to where I can recognize them now when I'm watching stuff. Usually in TV shows they'll mess it up, but you can see the mistakes they make with the rain. We made mistakes. They're small, but we made them. And I was just watching something. I don't remember what it was, but it was just in the last few days. And I saw the rain, said, that's good rain. And then they did another shot, good rain. And then they did this one shot where the rain's coming from 2 different angles. And I said, oh, I know what went wrong there. Because we got a couple shots in ours where the rain's not all traveling in the same direction. But most of it is, and it works pretty well. And it's virtually all practical effects. I did add a little digital here and there just to make it seem more stormy. But almost all that rain is practical. Most of our effects are practical. It's like gunshots and bullet holes in walls, because we couldn't shoot bullet holes in walls.
Well, yeah.
Well, we could have. It would just been.
It would cost us more money. We would have no budget left.
So the premiere is July 7th in Chambersburg.
July 7th, the Capitol Theater, Chambersburg, Pennsylvania.
Right. We'll make sure to put a link.
Free giveaways, free posters.
Yeah. Well, I'll be there.
Yeah.
Will you be there?
I gotta look at my schedule, but I'm gonna try to be there.
We'll buy a ticket even if you don't come.
That's fine.
We'll put a link in the description for anyone who's interested in tickets. You can follow A Host of Sparrows on Facebook.
You can. There's a website. And meet the whole cast. The entire cast is coming.
Yes, the entire cast will be there. I think most of the crew is going to be there, as far as I know.
As far as I've heard, I haven't heard anybody who isn't coming. So that's fabulous. I mean, You get a free poster. You can get it signed by everybody.
Yeah.
Just have them write small.
And if previous premieres are any indication, this is going to be a good night. So,
Last one went very well. Last one went very well.
So, you got anything else?
I don't have anything else.
All right.
Yeah.
Kevin, thank you for
Yeah,
thank you
you're
for
welcome.
being here.
No problem.
Appreciate it. Thank you for hosting us.
Yeah.
That's no
in
problem.
your house. For You Have to Watch This podcast, I'm Alan,
And I'm Ryan.
and we'll see you next week.